So, good morning, everybody. My name is Didar Sohi. I do apologize. Had some technical issues, but we're back on track, I think. Today, welcome to the latest in our webinar series. So today we're going to talk about ATP, Advanced Threat Protection, and I'll end with a little bit about Symantec's Endpoint Protection, so you get a full understanding of the portfolio in terms of protecting your network and your endpoints. So the threat landscape is more challenging than ever as it's escalating rapidly in both numbers and complexity. So Symantec has seen over 430 million new pieces of malware in 2015. On average, that's more than 1 million new malware variants created every day. They also saw a 55% increase in targeted attacks. Preventing attacks, preventing threats is not it's not enough, right? So a recent Gartner report indicated that over 40% of end users were compromised despite using malware blocking techniques. Also, in addition, when there is an incident, it takes about 120 days on average for incident responders to remediate found vulnerabilities. It becomes more difficult for security staff to stay ahead of today's sophisticated attack techniques. While email continues to be the primary attack vector, endpoints remain the easy targets. So attackers leverage endpoint systems in order to infiltrate their target organizations, whether it's by exploiting vulnerabilities through social engineering, phishing websites, or even a combination of all of them. Once inside the victim's infrastructure, targeted attacks can use endpoint systems to traverse the network, steal credentials, and connect with command and control servers, all with the goal of compromising the organization's most critical systems and data. These attacks can also be highly stealthy and persistent, using novel techniques to hide themselves from detection. So the majority of organizations aren't stopping these attacks. In fact, Symantec has done the research, and they know that most organizations don't even know they're being attacked, right? So less than 25% of breaches are discovered by internal security practices. Instead, the most common way is to be notified by third party or law enforcement, which for most of us in the business, we understand this is how it works. For now, so the recent Yahoo breach, if we look at that, was one of the largest data breaches in history. The attackers, they attacked slowly and quietly without anyone watching, so they stayed under the radar. The attack went undetected for almost 2 years, and attackers stole 500 million accounts, putting millions of users at risk. And then if you look at the Sony Pictures breach that went undetected for more than a year, you can understand that these attacks are getting larger and larger, and they happen almost on a daily basis if you look at the statistics as they are out there. The cybersecurity market itself is growing quickly, and this growth has fueled a renaissance in security for both consumers and enterprises. There's a lot of new products and new startup companies that are set out to detect and respond to advanced threats in their own way, complementing and competing with the big traditional vendors like Symantec, Trend, and McAfee. The interesting dynamic there is that those vendors are initially focusing their efforts on the network layer, and are now attempting to make inroads into the areas where Symantec's always been strong, the endpoints. Because most of today's security products aren't integrated, security analysts need to examine many distinct sources of security data, so you've got to go to different consoles, to different places to get the information, and then figure out how they can combine this data manually and then hope to connect the dots, as they say, to get visibility into whatever suspicious activity is occurring on the environment. That makes things time-consuming, and it also makes it difficult to clean up after an attack because you have to follow the dots and figure out where everything was in the first place. So without having integrated security products, analysts need to move manually, and that does take time and effort, and it can become a very consuming process. Now, let's get on to Symantec Advanced Threat Protection, so the ATP platform. It is a unified platform that can detect, prioritize threats across multiple control points, and remediate advanced threats from one single console. It's delivered in a hardware appliance and a virtual appliance, so you have options now of how to actually implement this on your network. Today, there are four ATP modules. You have ATP endpoint, you have ATP network, ATP email, and ATP roaming. ATP roaming was introduced in November of 2016, so that's the newest part of that product line right there. ATP endpoint and network will sit on the appliance. ATP email and ATP roaming sit in the cloud. So these modules send information from different control points to the ATP platform, where it's correlated, where the data is correlated and prioritized, and all the threat events are leveraged by using the correlation technology and global threat intelligence network that Symantec has, and it will allow customers to focus on what matters most, right? Saves a lot of time and saves a lot of effort. Suspicious events are actually submitted through the platform to Symantec's cloud today, ATP, to Symantec's cloud. And we'll go into details on all of these actually right now. Just a little bit more detail, high level sort of approach so you can understand where they sit and what they do. Just briefly, ATP endpoint integrates with SEP, so we'll talk about SEP at the very end, and that's their endpoint protection agent. And what it does is it enables customers to search, discover, and remediate attacks across all of the endpoints. Then you have ATP network, which will detect advanced threats using multiple layers of technology, including ML, IPS, reputation, and sandbox. And you have ATP email, which integrates with email security.cloud to detect advanced threats entering via email and uses sandbox to detect those attacks. And the ATP roaming control feature, which is it's designed to allow customers to protect the endpoints when they're out of the corporate network. So if you go offline or whatnot, you're roaming, you're not on the corporate network. It's designed to protect against that. It supports HTTPS and it integrates with the cloud sandbox, and its events are sent back to the ATP platform for correlation with the rest of the control points. So before I dive into the four ATP modules, we'll look at the technologies that are leveraged by Symantec ATP. The advantage of using Symantec ATP is that unlike other companies that focus on one or few technologies to detect threats, Symantec ATP uncovers threats using a variety of technologies. We've got ILC feeds. Symantec's ATP platform leverages these feeds from their global intelligence network and deep site threat intelligence network, and they're used to block malicious URLs. IPS, in terms of IPS, so we're looking at blocking malware when it traverses a network using the IPS tech. It uses signature-based detection engines to monitor individual packets or streams of packets and finds those threats in the network stream itself. In terms of files, Symantec applies AV and heuristics to scan and eradicate malicious files that arrive on a system. So heuristic scanning is similar to signature scanning, except that instead of looking for specific signatures, it looks for certain instructions or commands within a program that aren't found in typical application programs. So as a result, a heuristic engine is able to, it can potentially detect malicious functionality in new, previously unexamined malicious malware. The reputation-based detection engine that they use is used to determine the safety of a file. So the key file attributes are analyzed. The insight reputation-based analysis identifies whether that file is good or bad, and then assigns a reputation score to the file. And it effectively protects it against other attacks while significantly reducing overhead and false positives by using context. This technology actually correlates, I believe it's tens of billions of linkages between users and files and websites to detect rapidly mutating threats, and blocks those files judged to have a bad reputation. And finally, we have Symantec Endpoint in terms of behavioral recognition. They have a behavioral engine that utilizes static code analysis and understands what's happening on all the processes and system changes that are occurring on the network. And they utilize machine learning to do analysis on those potential threats that are out there. So when Symantec introduced ATP in 2015, they also introduced sandboxing and correlation technologies. In the latest release, they include dynamic adversary intelligence, which provides adversary attack indicators to expose threat actors, the origin of the target attack, and several other things that are there. These technologies run in the cloud and truly differentiate Symantec. Take a quick look at particular technologies. So you have Cynic, which is a cloud-based sandboxing and payload detonation service. It's been built from the ground up, so it's able to detect and discover today's most complex attacks. It imitates user interaction in the testing environment, so it mimics keystrokes and mouse movements, and it leverages machine learning based analysis, and it combines that with Symantec's global intelligence to detect even the most stealthy and persistent threats. In addition, it executes files in both virtual and physical environments. So you have malware that is virtual machine aware. So if it understands it's in a virtual environment, it won't execute. This particular engine will allow it to detonate in an actual environment, so you can see what's happening, and threats can be combated and detected that way. Cynic sandboxing also provides full details of a file's capabilities and all of its execution actions. So incident responders can actually quickly remediate relevant attack artifacts and search for indicators of compromise. It does have the ability to utilize I believe it works with MS Office, PDF, Java, Windows executables, and containers. And it's delivered by the cloud, and it also uses the latest threat intelligence and is highly scalable. The Synapse engine is a correlation technology that aggregates and correlates all suspicious activity across endpoints, network, email, and web. It fuses that data with the intelligence from Symantec's global sensor network and identifies and prioritizes those events that are of interest. So if we begin with Symantec's endpoint detection and response, the endpoint is the EDR solution, right? So that's detection and response solution. So if a customer asks Symantec whether Symantec has an EDR solution, you should know which module to sell, right? So EDR is deployed as an appliance. Customers use Symantec's Advanced Threat Protection appliance hardware, and it's available for VMware's ESX platform. When a threat slips past a customer, customers want to quickly contain and remediate them, so Symantec's endpoint provides EDR capabilities that allow customers to investigate suspicious events and get in-depth visibility into all endpoints across the organization. They can look up any suspicious file in the cloud scale sandbox, and it can be investigated further. The Cynic sandboxing technology leverages advanced machine learning combined with the global threat intelligence. It's able to uncover stealthy threats and provides granular details of a file's capabilities and all of its execution actions, such as when the malicious file was actually downloaded, from which website, who downloaded it. They can also allow customers to conduct instant search of any attack artifact on that's out there. And you can query every endpoint for a specific indicator of compromise in real time. And it uses things such as file hashes or registry keys, so it can shorten the time for an incident responder to identify potential threats. In the latest release, ATP endpoint actually integrates with Splunk and ServiceNow, so you can actually push all that information out to a correlation point and get everything sort of analyzed and sorted out. In terms of Symantec's Advanced Threat Protection Network module, it's another network appliance that inspects traffic over common ports and protocols for both inbound and outbound traffic. It's available as a physical appliance or as a virtual appliance again, so they've made it a lot easier for you to deploy it onto networks. It fuses intelligence from Symantec's protected sensors as well as their massive global sensor network, so it blocks, uncovers, and investigates threats that others. It monitors all traffic coming into or out of the network. It's able to inspect using a multiple advanced detection technology. It includes reputation-based detection, which looks at how prevalent a file is and whether Symantec's actually seen it before, as well as a number of other techniques such as sandboxing and correlation. Suspicious files processed by ATP network appliance are sent automatically to the cloud scale sandbox for further analysis, which gives ATP network the ability to identify suspicious incoming network and helps locate machines inside the network that are communicating with, for example, malicious command and control servers. It provides the most up-to-date visibility into new attack sources on the internet. Customers can also conduct quick searches of any indicators of compromise of files and URLs. It reduces the time of incident responders to identify potential threats. So when a malware is detected, ATP network uses correlation technology to verify whether the threat was blocked by Symantec's Endpoint Protection. If the threat wasn't blocked, an incident is automatically created. The advanced analysis and correlation means that the analysts can quickly focus on the most critical incidents and that require immediate action. And customers can then blacklist any files and URLs that are, I should probably click, blacklist any files or URLs that are actually identified as malicious. In terms of looking at where Symantec sits with on the slide, you see that the closest competitor is Palo Alto, and it's about 90% as effective. Symantec is the one product that has been ranked best in detection and accuracy by Dennis Technology Labs. It provided 100% detection and accuracy. So Symantec ATP email helps resolve problems that are related to ATP attacks coming via email themselves, right? It uncovers and blocks attacks, advanced by leveraging Cloud Sandbox, and suspicious events are then submitted directly into the Cloud Sandbox, which has both physical and virtual appliances. Now, with rich threat intelligence, data can be exposed from malicious emails to customers, and Symantec ATP email also provides detailed reporting such as file hashes, IP addresses, URL information, and all of these attack artifacts are displayed through one single console. So one of the biggest selling points for ATP in general is the fact that everything is correlated through that one single endpoint. You can also export the information and the data into whatever SIM the customer has, excuse me, and it will allow them to quickly correlate and respond to threats in that manner, right? And as I mentioned a bit earlier, it sits in the cloud. It requires email security.cloud, and that's how it collects all the email-related events. In other words, if it's a Symantec email security.cloud customer, they can leverage their existing investment and get advanced threat protection for email without even adding a new agent. So looking at other competitors in the market of email, the closest competitor is Proofpoint in terms of the product that they actually have. And as you can see, Symantec matches it in terms of detection methods and IP address mechanisms, and in terms of one of the file hashes, but it provides a whole host of other advances and improvements across utilizing Proofpoint. Now, Symantec Advanced Threat Protection roaming module is a newer product. It's just like the email module in that it sits in the cloud, so it's a cloud-based solution. It does uncover and blocks advanced threats that are embedded in both HTTP and HTTPS encrypted traffic. So today's advanced attacks hide themselves on legitimate websites. They leverage new and, in a lot of cases, unknown vulnerabilities. and they enter organizations via that traffic, right, HTTP or HTTPS. Now, organizations are always seeking ways to secure their network, and the ever-changing perimeter of your network, the roaming users, cause a significant issue and headache in terms of that particular situation. 70% of organizations support BYOD, excuse me, and that implies that a greater chance that advanced threats can actually infiltrate into endpoints while end users are browsing the internet outside the corporate network. ATP roaming is designed to address that particular issue. It protects users from advanced threats no matter where they are browsing the internet, so they can be browsing at the airport, cafe, at home, whether it's personal email, checking out whatever website they want to check out. It leverages reputation-based analysis, IPS, antivirus, and the cynic sandboxing technology and detonation techniques. It can detect and block advanced threats even as if they're embedded in encrypted traffic, so it ensures users are safe even when they're not connected to the corporate VPN. It has the ability to correlate with detected end control points, so we just talked about the rest of them, and it greatly reduces the number of evidence that a security analyst needs to examine because all the information is correlated and put together, right? So it allows your customers to, once again, prioritize and focus on what matters the most, and it saves a lot of time and effort because it's a single console that displays the information. And again, once, as I said before with the email product, if you have an ATP endpoint customer and they would like to add ATP roaming, the ATP roaming module, it just requires them to deploy a very lightweighted agent this time and configure their endpoint to ATP roaming cloud. So that covers ATP. So what I'll do now is I'll move into Symantec's Endpoint Protection 14. I believe they just updated 14.1, and we'll probably do another webinar, and we'll cover that in a lot more detail. But I'm going to give you guys a sort of high-level view of this again. And some of the information I'm going to repeat because it's a correlation to Symantec Endpoint Protection. The whole point to this particular product is to protect against mass malware attacks, targeted attacks, and emerging threats without compromising the end user and without slowing down IT productivity. It gives businesses the ability to use, once again, a single console and now a high-performance next-gen agent that stops threats regardless of how they actually attack the endpoint. And it gives the ability to also deliver powerful response capabilities for superior protection across a multiple range of environments. STEP is built using layers of protection, and they are a unique combination of essential and next generation technologies. So with STEP 14, there's an extensive list of next gen technologies and key features. They are the biggest in terms of STEP's release, the biggest release that they've had, and it does provide unbeatable product. As you can see, there are multiple layers of security from antivirus to behavioral monitoring. You've got advanced machine learning in there. There's reputational analysis. It even looks at memory exploit mitigation. All of these techs are built, all this technology that they've added is actually built on the original SEP 12. The advanced machine learning addresses the unknown threats. The memory exploit mitigation, which I just mentioned, blocks attacks against vulnerabilities found in many popular applications. The emulator, excuse me, identifies hard to detect polymorphic malware. And finally, the intelligence threat cloud works to ensure you have access to the most up-to-date threat information. Essential capabilities such as device control has also been enhanced to enable administrators to control the type of devices allowed to connect to a managed Mac computer for now. It used to be a Windows product only, but now they've pushed out to Macintosh. So Apple is covered. So it gives you a much more Being able to quickly respond to threats is vital when it comes to minimizing damage to organizations. So there's an inoculation phase in SEP that includes many other essential technologies, and they've been made available since SEP 12, but new integrations have been pushed out there. So Symantec's constantly acquiring and innovating. So there's plenty of newer APIs that they have produced, and if you look at this, we've got Power Eraser, which gives you aggressive remediation of hard-to-remove infections. You've got system lockdown, so you can do application control and harden endpoint security with whitelisting or blacklisting. Symantec this year acquired Bluecoat, so they have acquired their secure web gateway technology. Now there are APIs that have been introduced that will directly correlate with the CSG and the ASG, so the secure web gateway products. So in the latest release of the product, you have the ability to now investigate suspicious events and get full visibility across your endpoints. There is an option and the ability to quickly search for attack artifacts and sweep all endpoints for an IOC. You also have the ability to remediate all instances of threats in minutes with one click if they actually do make it past the SEP agent themselves. And it does leverage SEP and some non-semantic investments, as I mentioned. There's no new endpoint agent required with SEP. You can upgrade as the agent if the agent's installed on an endpoint. So the biggest sort of thing, the biggest item when it comes to reducing total cost of ownership is, in the endpoint sort of complexity arena, is the fact that if you can reduce the number of agents on the endpoint, you will reduce the cost and you'll reduce the complexity. But if you have a single agent that's low, is a low performance hog, you will increase performance on the environment that it's used on. So to get the capabilities we see on the screen, or these 3 agents or more, Symantec can provide all of this in one high performance lightweight agent. Reducing the number of agents means that also there's no need to pay for maintenance for each agent. And IT teams can get the time back that they would normally spend upgrading or troubleshoot those agents, and in addition to managing multiple vendor relationships too. So endpoints generally see a performance increase because multiple agents aren't vying for CPU time. And that's a huge customers to add other agents, but why do that when you have SEP and SEP can do all of that for you? To sum it up, SEP gives businesses the ability to manage through a single console once again, and it's a high performance next generation agent that can stop threats regardless of how they attack the endpoint. Whether the endpoint is on the network or off the network, online or offline, it has the ability to continue to provide that protection. And it can deliver powerful response capabilities too for superior protection across those environments. And that is the end of this webinar. If there are any questions, we'd be more than happy to entertain them. I will open up the floor for that. I guess that's a no. If you have any questions, please visit our website, Symantec.com. There's plenty of information there, and we do have campaign in a box information there too, so we can give you all the information you need. And yes, do feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely help you in anything you need Symantec. All right, no questions, so I will end the webinar. All right, thank you, everyone.